Hello and welcome to the Combat Corner Top 5 segment. This week we'll be discussing our top 5 grapplers of all time.
Take it away, Jackson.
I have in at number 5, mainly for one fight, but also his base was wrestling. Chael Sonnen, more commonly known for his outrageously funny moments on the mic and at press conferences. He takes my number 5 spot mainly for the fight he had with Anderson Silva, very nearly bringing that title reign to an end, with an absolute domination of 4.5 rounds of just smothering him with different takedowns and just laying on top of him and moving one position to another. It was a very sexy display of mixed martial arts. So he's sitting down there at number 5. Number 4, I've got Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier potentially would have been remembered a lot higher up the GOAT list than he is if he didn't have that kind of asterisk next to his name with the whole John Jones rivalry that went on, and there were some real worrying moments that came out of that rivalry, considering Jones's drug scandals and whatnot. But DC made his way to the top of 2 weight classes with a wrestling base that really carried it. He had decent boxing, but his striking overall was fairly lacking for someone who managed to dominate 2 divisions. He's sitting there at number 4. Number 3, controversial considering what I just said, John Jones. John Jones was the first person in the UFC to take down Daniel Cormier and managed to do it fairly easily. When this guy wants to throw in a takedown, he almost manages to get it every single time. He is one of the highest fight IQs we've ever seen in the octagon. And like matching that up with your wrestling and kind of mixing striking into it so fluently that you can literally just throw a takedown whenever you want and pretty much land it every single time. That's why I've got him down in my top 3. Number 2, he's come up in one of my lists beforehand. I might not even remember what list it was, but he was an Olympic gold medalist in wrestling. That's Henry Cejudo, another 2-division champ. This guy has kind of lost his spark in the last few fights, and therefore maybe some people don't remember the absolute dominance that he threw down in the flyweight and bantamweight divisions back in the day. But being someone who's literally got to the very top of the sport and in a world sense, that's why he's there at number 2. Number 1, a man who again showed not a lot of striking prowess, only managed to land the way that he did because people were constantly worried about getting taken down. This is none other than the 29-0, the Eagle, Khabib Nurmagomedov. Nurmagomedov. Look, wins over Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje. All of these guys who were arguably in the primes of their career at this time, they had to worry about one thing going into each and every one of these fights. All 3 of those guys I named are primarily strikers who could easily spark out someone like Khabib if it was just a kickboxing or a boxing match. But this guy's Sambo base made it impossible to tell when or where he was going to shoot. He could get you to the ground and just absolutely impose his will on anyone he pleased, which is why he went undefeated and why he just, like that fight against McGregor, he was angry. The other fights maybe not so much, and he just choked them out or went for an arm triangle or whatever and just got things done in a pretty incredible fashion. But he showed against McGregor that if he wanted to, he could seriously take someone down and just do whatever he wants to them. So that's why he takes out my number 1 spot as my most impressive or my favorite grappler of all time.
Good. Very good.
Kobe,
I like
take it away.
There's not that much jiu-jitsu on the list.
No.
Which I noticed. That's a very wrestling heavy list, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So what I've done is, I've tried not to consider outside of MMA achievements too much for putting them in my list.
Well, good thing we discussed that beforehand.
Well, you could have done whatever you want. It's called being intelligent, mate. And so I've picked just my favorite MMA grapplers, guys who had success with grappling and MMA. Personally, that's just what I went with. And there's no wrong answers in these lists, Jackson. So calm yourself, all right? Just calm down. Look, number 5, I've got Charles Oliveira. I love his jiu-jitsu. I love watching him. He's got the most submissions in the UFC. Still. He was the champ. He submitted Michael Chandler. No, he didn't. Sorry, he finished Michael Chandler on the feet. He submitted Justin Gaethje. He submitted Dustin Poirier. 2 guys that are susceptible to getting finished by submissions, but, you know. And the guy just had flair. Look, he makes it look easy, and that's not easy to do when it comes to grappling. So Charles Oliveira is set at number 5 on my list. At number 4, we got Daniel Cormier, another one from your list, or one from your list. DC, great wrestler. He was able to pick up the biggest of the biggest in the heavyweight division and slam them on their head. That fight with Dan Henderson, although Dan was coming towards the end of his career, and DC was much bigger than Dan, he ragdolled that guy completely over and over again. Sorry about that, guys. And look, he made it look easy. And he did that against many opponents. Bigfoot Silva, Derek Lewis, he managed to absolutely maul. So DC comes in at number 4. John Jones comes in at number 3. Put him above DC. We both did, actually. Because, look, he was able to take down DC. He had more success against in the wrestling against DC. And look, this guy's just got the perfect wrestling base for MMA. People were afraid of his punches and his wrestling. The guy chain wrestles amazing, and his kicks. His jiu-jitsu's great. He submitted some of the best. That standing guillotine against Lyoto Machida's probably my favorite sub, which you might see in another video in the UFC. Cold. A guy who really improved every fight. I have to clear my throat. I've got to do it. So John Jones comes in at number 3 there. Very impressive. Number 2, we have George St. Pierre. Now, this was a toss-up between these two, where I was going to put them. Decided to put GSP right above Jones, because GSP never actually had any wrestling credentials outside of MMA. He learned wrestling within his MMA training, which makes it all the more impressive that he was able to dominate guys on the ground like Matt Hughes, who's a NCAA Division I wrestler, and many others. And his jiu-jitsu as well is absolutely next level. Training with John Danaher and the Danaher Death Squad, still to this day. The guy has some amazing jiu-jitsu and wrestling, and look, he's just amazing. I love the guy. So he comes in at number 2, just for the fact that he was super impressive. And number 1, Khabib Nurmagomedov. Khabib Nurmagomedov. Look, again, his wrestling was just next level. The way he managed to manhandle, my most impressive one was the way he was able to manhandle Justin Gaethje, who's a credentialed wrestler outside of the UFC.
Yep.
NCAA wrestler, college, high school wrestler. He just made it look easy against him. Saying that, so did Charles, but Khabib did it first. And look, Khabib made it cool to ragdoll Justin Gaethje like that. So Khabib comes in at number 1. He's obviously submitted McGregor, he submitted Poirier, he submitted Gaethje. And if he stuck around, he probably would have continued to submit everyone else. The guy's a monster. And yeah, like you say, he managed to rock people because people were scared of his wrestling. His striking was garbo. So that's my list. Let us know what you think below.
So, what we want from you, people who are listening, is put your top 5 people grapplers in the UFC down below. Let us know what you'd like to see us break down, what top 5s you want to know about, what you guys at home would like to see us do next week, and maybe we'll just listen to you and do it.
Maybe we will. Thank you very, 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 very much for watching. Please go and watch our long form content if you enjoyed this video.
Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next weeko.